Shocking decision, millionaire's daughter picks a homeless girl as her sister at midnight. The night draped itself in the kind of darkness that felt alive, thick and enveloping, just like the secret about to unfold. It was midnight, and in a privileged corner of the city, a sudden explosion of surprise erupted from the luxurious mansion of the Millers. Inside, the ball was glittering with laughter, but outside, a world of shadows held its breath. There stood Eleanor Miller, daughter of the city's most influential millionaire, her silhouette framed by the moonlight. And all eyes were on her as she made a choice that would be talked about for years. "She's lost her mind," someone gasped. "What is she doing?" Eleanor had always been the golden girl, charming, rich, and adored. But tonight, something shifted in her. As she stepped away from the scene of pastel dresses and champagne, she felt tugged by an unapologetic force, pulling her towards the edge of the driveway. There, curled under the frigid metal of the streetlight, was a homeless girl, ragged and dirty, with eyes that seemed to hold all the wisdom of a hard life. The girl was shivering, her hair matted and her fingers trembling. But those eyes, a startling green that pierced through the night, seemed to beckon Eleanor closer. "Why is she looking at me?" Eleanor wondered, her heart racing like a runaway train. A hush fell over the crowd as they squinted to see this bizarre scene unfolding. Their whispers cut through the air like sharp knives, hands pointing, jaws dropping. "She's going to regret this," murmured a socialite, perfectly manicured nails pressed to her lips. "She's crazy," another voice chimed in, mixed with disbelief and scandal. Dressed in designer duds, decorum was hard to maintain as the stark reality of inequality danced in front of them. The contrast was unbearable. Still, Eleanor took one deliberate step forward. Her chest felt tight, as if filled with a storm of emotions. Was this bravery? Foolishness? A reflection of her own loneliness in such a crowded room? Her heart swelled as she knelt down, ignoring the gasps that swirled like smoke around her. She reached out a trembling hand. "Do you want to come with me?" she whispered, the question heavy with significance, but the girl just stared, her eyes widening. The moment hung thick, electric like the air before a thunderstorm. Time seemed to freeze. "What is her name?" Eleanor asked, her voice barely audible. She felt the weight of the world pressing down on her, a bold decision teetering on the brink of everything she had ever known. Was she ready to shatter her mother's world of wealth and privilege for this girl? What would the society's elite think in the cold light of day? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The atmosphere crackled with uncertainty. Eleanor was met with a tremor of hesitation from the girl, who glanced around as if realizing the consequences of this spontaneous bond. That single moment could change everything. Unbelievable gasps erupted from onlookers, brittle exclamations breaking the spell of midnight madness. What in the world is she thinking? A wealthy woman scoffed, clutching her pearls. Eleanor couldn't hear them anymore. She was lost in the depths of those green eyes, searching for anything that might anchor their fates. Just then, something shifted behind the homeless girl, shadows lunging forth from the darkness. A figure emerged, casting an ominous shadow over the scene. Eleanor's heart dropped, a knot tightening like a vice in her stomach. Who were they? And more importantly, what did they want with the girl? The thrill and dread surged through her as she prepared for the unknown, the air thick with tension and impending chaos. As Eleanor stood there, heartbeat deafening in her ears, she couldn't help but wonder, would this girl become her sister, or lead her down a path of disaster? The night was brimming with secrets, and she was on the verge of uncovering them all. What would happen next? The figure stepped into the light, and Eleanor's stomach twisted into knots. It was a man, tall and imposing, his features shadowed but sharp. A leather jacket hugged his broad shoulders, and his dark eyes glinted with a calculation that sent chills down her spine. He looked like trouble pure and simple. The crowd began to murmur again, but Eleanor felt frozen, caught between the urgent pull towards the girl and the simmering threat of the stranger. "Get away from her!" he barked, the force of his voice slicing through the murmurs and unsettling the onlookers. Eleanor's heart pounded with desperation. She couldn't just turn away now. The homeless girl needed an ally, and Eleanor could be that ally. But who was this man? Was he a friend or a foe? The girl flinched, her eyes darting between Eleanor and the man. "Please," she whispered, her voice almost lost under the night's ominous chill. I want to go with her." There was a frail intensity in her words, a plea Eleanor felt deep in her bones. "No," the man growled, stepping closer. "You don't know what you're getting into." His gaze shifted to Eleanor, calculating, almost as if sizing her up. "You think you'll save her? Families like yours only bring trouble." Eleanor felt a rush of indignation flood her. How dare he judge her? "You don't know anything about me." She shot back, the firmness in her voice surprising even herself. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, their attention riveted like moths to a flame. The man laughed, but there was no humor in it, just a cold bite. "I know all I need to. Rich girls playing savior rarely end well." He motioned to the girl, who remained rooted in place, caught in a web of fear and uncertainty. Eleanor stepped forward, her voice stronger. "Her name is Lily. I want her with me. If you care about her at all, you'll let her make that choice." The words spilled out like veins of molten lava, raw and potent. She could feel a shift beneath her, an awakening of something fierce inside her spirit. Lily glanced up at Eleanor, her eyes searching, the green depths flickering with hope and fear. "I want to go," she stated again, this time more resolute. The man's facade cracked for the briefest moment, and Eleanor caught a glimpse of something softer, perhaps the tiniest glimmer of hesitation. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared, a mask slipping back into place. "You really don't understand what you're asking for, do you? Life is not some fairy tale." Eleanor felt her chest tighten. Maybe it wasn't he, but she knew that she had to try. "And what's your solution? Keeping her in the dark like this?" She connected with Lily's gaze, urging her to hold strong. "You deserve a chance, don't you?" With one stroke of courage, she grasped Lily's hand, squeezing it gently. "Come on. You can be free." The words ignited a flicker of defiance in the homeless girl's expression. The man erupted with anger, his body tense, and the crowd held its breath. "Step back. You have no idea what you're up against," he warned, his voice low and threatening that a heavy silence fell over them. The tension could snap like a brittle twig. Would Eleanor and Lily stand their ground? Would they be able to escape whatever darkness loomed behind the stranger? Eleanor took a deep breath, staring into the abyss of choices ahead. The air was thick but charged, a reckoning of wills hanging in the night. As the man raised a hand, Eleanor's instinct screamed that something was about to erupt. The question lingered, would they triumph or fall into that impending chaos? Just then, a siren echoed in the distance, slicing through the standoff like a knife. The moment had come, but what would it reveal? Would fate intervene or amplify the chaos swirling around them? The siren grew louder, its wail echoing off the nearby buildings, sending a ripple of panic through the crowd. People shifted uneasily, glancing toward the source of the sound as if it could somehow provide an escape from the tension surrounding them. The man's eyes darted toward the sound, a flicker of urgency flashing across his chiseled features. "Damn it," he muttered under his breath, and in that instant, Eleanor made her move. The weight of the unknown pressed against her, yet she felt a courageous fire blooming in her chest. She tugged Lily, pulling her to her side, desperate to shield her from whatever darkness this man harbored. "Just come with me," Eleanor urged, her voice shaking slightly but filled with determination. Lily's grip tightened around Eleanor's hand, her eyes wide with fear but also an inkling of belief. The fear radiating from the stranger was palpable, almost smoke-like in the cold night air. The man shot a glare at Eleanor, eyes dark and threatening, as if he could ignite flames of fear just by his stare. "You think you can just walk away?" He stepped forward, closing the space like a predator, raw intent dripping from his words. "You have no idea what you're inviting into your life. You think you're saving her, but you don't even know her history. Or mine." The siren blared again, barely a street away, and something in the man snapped. He lunged towards them, but Eleanor instinctively shoved Lily behind her. The crowd gasped collectively, voices turning to a cacophony. For a second, time seemed to slow, frozen on that heartbeat of chaos. With a determination that surprised herself, Eleanor pressed forward. "I don't care what you think. She gets to choose where she wants to go. You don't own her." Hot indignation flared within her chest, fueling her resolve. Fear ebbed slightly, replaced with a fierce desire to protect this vulnerable girl, but the man's expression hardened, morphing from anger to a calculating calm that sent a shiver down Eleanor's spine. "You really think you can change things, don't you? Save the day?" He taunted, a chilling edge twisting his voice. "You don't know what I can do to protect her or destroy you." Suddenly, from the crowd emerged a thickly built man, uniformed and stern. The flashing lights of a police car illuminated his expression as he approached, cutting through the rising tension like a hot knife through butter. "What is going on here?" he demanded, his eyes scanning the faces like a hawk on the lookout for prey. Eleanor's heart sank, uncertainty crashing down like an avalanche. Would the police believe her? Or would they side with the imposing man whose threats loomed like a storm cloud? The stranger's shoulders slumped slightly, but his eyes remained fiery, brazen. "It's none of your business, officer," he spat, his tone revealing contempt. The policeman's gaze darted between the three of them, trying to piece together the puzzle. "I'm making it my business," he shot back, authority ringing in an iron fist. "Step away from the girl." In a moment that felt electric, Eleanor felt the weight of the world resting on her shoulders. Both choices before her loomed like shadows, threatening to swallow her whole, to retreat into her privileged life or fight for something real, something that mattered. "Lily," she called, her voice firm yet pooling with vulnerability, "you are not alone anymore. We can leave together." The officer's presence shifted the balance, but the truth of her words hung in the air, tugging at the edges of reality. Together, they could reclaim whatever shadows threatened to envelop them both. The man's eyes narrowed, dark calculations swirling in the depths. "You really don't know what you're getting into," he murmured dangerously, the shadows around him thickening. As the silence fell again, punctuated only by the pulsating siren, Eleanor realized the choices spiraling around her felt heavier than ever. What would she decide in this moment of reckoning? With her heart pounding, she locked eyes with Lily, searching for a sign. The answer lay somewhere between the light and the darkness, and the moment had come for them to take a stand. Would they confront the unknown together, or would fear pull them apart? Behind the looming figure, a flicker of something, danger or hope, hung in the night, waiting for their choice to ignite the next crossroads. The tension hung in the air like a thick fog, heavy and suffocating. Eleanor's heart raced, and the world around her faded. The threats of the man, the chaos of the crowd, even the blaring siren dulled to a distant roar. All that mattered was Lily, the girl impossibly merged with her fate. "Just breathe," she whispered to Lily, the words trembling on her lips. The girl's wide eyes flickered with fear but sparked with a glimmer of trust, and Eleanor drew strength from that flicker. They were losing precious seconds, caught in a limbo ruled by fear and uncertainty. "Why don't you take a step back, buddy?" The officer's voice broke the spell, his commanding tone resonating with authority. The man had taken one deliberate step toward them, and Eleanor felt the electricity crackling in the air. It was as if the very fabric of their moment was woven with fragility. "Step away from her, or I will detain you," the cop warned, his stance widening, arms adjusting, ready for anything. For a heartbeat, the man hesitated. His anger simmered, contained by the weight of the situation. But then, as if embracing the role of a villain in a stage play, he let out a sharp laugh that echoed through the pooled silence. Detain me? In this city? You really don't understand. His eyes gleamed with derision. You think those badges mean something? You think I'm afraid of you? Eleanor could feel the chill threatening to wrap its fingers around her spine. The madness bubbling in his eyes sent her mind spinning. Was he really unhinged enough to pose a threat right here in front of a police officer? Look, we can sort this out, the officer began, stepping forward, but Eleanor grabbed his arm. Wait. She felt the urgency, a tether to Lily breaking with every second. He's not just some random guy. He's enough. The man's voice roared like thunder, cutting through her words. Suddenly, he surged forward, darkness swirling around him. Eleanor stumbled backward, pulling Lily with her, adrenaline igniting a fierce instinct to retreat. The crowd shifted behind them, whispers slicing through the gathering tension. Take him out. Someone shouted from the crowd, and just like that, chaos erupted. The policeman gripped his radio, barking commands, but the throngs of bodies began to press in, creating a maelstrom of thoughts and fears. Eleanor could barely keep her grip on Lily's hand as people surged, eyes wide and frantic, desperate for a way out, for safety. And then, as if pulled from a desperate dream, Eleanor noticed something bizarre, a flicker of movement across the street. A shadowy figure emerged, darting through the mayhem with unparalleled speed. Clad in dark clothing, the figure moved as if it were part of the night itself, a ghost slipping between worlds. Eleanor. The policeman's voice broke her spell. Get back. Move with the crowd. But she couldn't tear her gaze from the figure. It was fluid and stealthy, flowing toward the confrontation with an intent she couldn't decipher. Was this ally or enemy? Come on. Eleanor urged Lily, dragging her away, but she couldn't shake the feeling that everyone was being drawn into something larger, something that had been set in motion long before tonight. As they stumbled back, the man's voice rose in anger, bites of words that promised violence. You'll regret this. You think you can play savior? I own this city. You just don't know it yet. A rush of adrenaline blasted through Eleanor. She was knee-deep in a fight she couldn't run from, and she glanced back at the crowd. What was once an audience to her plight had transformed into a raging storm of confusion. Suddenly, the shadowy figure broke through the crowd, and Eleanor's heart stopped as it collided with the man, sending him sprawling backward. The scene erupted, panic ripping through the onlookers. Eleanor's heart pounded as she turned to Lily, needing reassurance, needing clarity. We have to go. Now. But the swirling chaos ensnared them, and an exhausting question lingered in her mind: would they escape this night alive, or would the darkness consume them all? A screeching sound filled the air, a fight intertwined with desperation, as the crowd surged around them, and the tension reached a boiling point. Who would emerge as allies, and who would be enemies in this nightmarish maze? Eleanor's adrenaline coursed through her veins, drowning out all rational thought. The chaos swirled like a tempest, each heartbeat pounding louder than the last. She pulled Lily closer, feeling the girl's fear echoing in her own chest. Stay with me, Eleanor urged, her voice steady yet laced with urgency. As the mysterious figure grappled with the man, the entire scene erupted into a cacophony of fear and violence. Fists flew, desperation hung in the air, and shouts rang out like gunshots. Some people fled, others whipped out their phones, capturing the madness instead of helping. Eleanor's eyes darted around a sea of bodies, too many faces, all filled with confusion and terror. Lily tugged at Eleanor's arm, wide-eyed, caught in a whirlpool of emotions. What is happening? Who are they? I don't know, Eleanor replied, struggling to keep her voice calm. But we can't stay here. Look. Lily pointed towards the scuffle. The figure was nimble and precise, effortlessly dodging the man's wild punches. There was something eerie yet captivating about the way he moved, as if he belonged to this chaos. What do we do? Lily's voice rose, panic seeping through the cracks. Eleanor scanned the chaos, searching for an exit. The police had formed a line, but they were overwhelmed. It was a simple equation: danger was all around, and safety felt miles away. "Let us go," she shouted, grabbing Lily's hand and pushing through the crowd's tight embrace. They inched toward the edge, closer to escape. But then the man roared again, his fury palpable. "I'll find you," he bellowed. The word sent shivers down Eleanor's spine. Fear turned to ice as she twisted around. The figure had him pinned down, motioning for the cop to step in. "Back off. You don't know who you're messing with." The man growled, muscles tense, eyes blazing. Eleanor hesitated, uncertainty gnawing at her insides. In this madness, how could she trust anyone? The fight intensified just as the police took control, but confusion reigned, and it was unclear who was the real threat. "We have to move," she insisted, urgency swelling with every scream from the crowd. They edged to the side, the world blurring like a spinning top. But abruptly, an explosive sound ripped through the air, startling everyone. A window shattered nearby. The unexpected noise sent the crowd into a frenzied state. Eleanor's heart raced. Was this an accident or something more sinister? Amidst the chaos, she spotted a flicker of something shining, a blade or a weapon glistening from the figure's pocket. The sight anchored her. Bile rose in her throat. She pulled Lily harder, desperate to shield her from this growing darkness. "Eleanor." Lily's voice was sharp, urgent. "We can't leave. He needs help." "No." Eleanor's tone was fierce. "We can't help him. We need to save ourselves first." Across the fray, the man seemed to slip away from the figure's hold and scrambled to his feet, eyes wide with madness. "You think you can get away?" "Not a chance." Eleanor's breath hitched. That voice, there was finality in it, a promise that echoed the terrible truth of their predicament. They were truly trapped in this nightmare, and somehow that man's influence stretched far beyond this chaotic night. As Eleanor turned, a commotion from the crowd caught her eye. A man had fallen, clutching his side, fear clenched on his face. Instinct pulled at her, fighting against the urge to flee. "Please," he begged, voice hoarse and breaking. "Help me." Eleanor hesitated, caught in the web of her own moral dilemma. Was helping this stranger worth risking their safety? The decision loomed before her, thick and heavy. Just as she felt her resolve faltering, a glance back at Lily rekindled the fire deep within. "We can't get caught up in this," Eleanor whispered urgently. But within, the light of hope flickered dimly. Was there a way to stand against a rising tide without being swept away? Before she could decide, the crowd refocused, and sheer chaos erupted again. The battle unfolded in front of her, and the stakes had never felt higher. "Hold on," Lily urged, gripping Eleanor's arm tightly. "What now?" Eleanor frowned, her mind racing for a solution, but the shadows deepened, and with them came a chilling question: what choice could save them now? The air crackled with uncertainty as Eleanor grappled with her swirling thoughts. She could hardly breathe, the weight of choice pressing down on her. The man on the ground cried out again, desperation filled with raw fear, his eyes pleading. But in the back of her mind, the roaring promise of danger loomed large, a dark shadow coiling tighter around her and Lily. "Please," he shouted, pain piercing through his voice. "Don't leave me." Eleanor saw Lily's face contort with compassion, empathy clouding her young judgment. "Eleanor, we can't just leave him. What if he dies?" The words sliced through Eleanor, and for a split second, she felt the tension tear at the fabric of her resolve. But the madness unfolding in front of her threatened to envelop them both. The figure, still locked in combat, suddenly darted to the side, keeping the raging man occupied. "Stay close," she commanded, pressing forward in a desperate attempt to dodge the pushing crowd. Each shove felt like a battle, bodies jostling against each other. Eleanor's thoughts raced. She should call for help. The police were right over there. But they were overwhelmed, and the chaos didn't allow for reasoning. Each shouted curse and terrified scream blended into a chorus of mayhem. Suddenly, a random shove pushed Eleanor off balance. She stumbled, losing her grip on Lily's hand. Lily. The name tore from her lips as she spun around, eyes darting wildly to get a glimpse of the girl. Panic washed over her like ice-cold water. The last thing she saw was Lily getting swept away by the current of frantic bodies. Get back! The figure shouted, rising back up, breathless but unyielding, as he caught sight of Eleanor's distress. He slashed through the crowd towards her, eyes intense and focused. With every step, Eleanor's heart leaped between fear and a flicker of hope. What was he doing? Could he help? Lily! She cried again, desperation churning in her stomach. The grappling man caught up to them, still fuming, his eyes darting from the figure to Eleanor. He stumbled, fingers flexing toward her as if to grab what was rightfully his. Wild adrenaline seemed to surge through him, propelling him toward a chaotic instinct for control. Let her go, said the figure, his voice calm but firm, as if he could somehow protect them from the storm surrounding them. Eleanor clutched her trembling hands together. An idea sparked, desperate and reckless. Take me, she shouted, her throat raw. Let her go. What are you doing? The figure exclaimed, catching her eye briefly, his expression a mix of disbelief and urgency. I'm not leaving without her, she insisted, her voice rising above the cacophony. The man paused, confusion flickering. You think you're in charge? His lips twisted, amusement and rage battling in his eyes. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Eleanor felt the weight of his glare. The air thickened, every moment stretching like taffy. She wasn't just a flawed daughter wanting to save a child, she was a target now, standing on the precipice of a choice that could take everything from her. With barely a breath, she saw movement in the crowd. Lily appeared through the tide, pulled back by another stranger who swiftly ushered her toward Eleanor. Relief washed over her, but it was trampled by the unresolved danger still lurking nearby. Let her go. Or I'll come after you. Eleanor's voice wavered, shaking even her. With every syllable, her resolve intensified, even as fear wrapped around her heart. Suddenly, the figure's demeanor shifted. No longer was he just fighting, he became a barricade between Eleanor and the man, a protector. The man snarled, "You'll regret this," and charged forward, fists poised to strike. Eleanor gasped, throwing her arms up instinctively as an unyielding scream tore from her throat. No. In that split second, she realized they were all mere puppets in a tangled web, and she had to break free. With mounting terror coursing through her veins, she clawed for any sense of control. As chaos erupted anew, she felt the ground quake beneath her. Would she run? Fight? Or had she already made a choice that would shatter the fragile balance of survival? Just then, a blaring siren wailed through the chaos, cutting through the darkness like a knife. Unsure whether to take it as a blessing or a harbinger of more chaos, Eleanor's mind churned. What now? Would the arrival of the police turn the tide or plunge them deeper into the nightmare? In the heart of the tempest, everything hovered on the precipice of imminent destruction, and her next move would either sow hope or invite doom. The moment had come and uncertainty loomed like a dark cloud above all. The world around Eleanor blurred as panic set in. The clamor of shouting voices melded with the wail of the siren, creating a chilling symphony that penetrated her bones. She couldn't process the chaos anymore. All she could think of was Lily, her beautiful daughter, caught in the thrumming heartbeat of madness. Move! She shouted, pushing her way through the crowd. Each bump and shove felt like a punishment, and her chest tightened with rage and fear. Where was Lily? How could this be happening? Then she spotted her just a few feet away. In the midst of frantic bodies, Lily was frozen, staring at Eleanor with wide, terrified eyes. Eleanor felt her heart stutter, a wild mix of relief and paralyzing dread. Lily! Eleanor screamed again, her voice cracking. She lunged toward the girl, but the grappling man blocked her path, fists clenched and ready for confrontation. "Get back!" he growled, his eyes blazing with a feverish madness. Just as Eleanor prepared to charge forward, she saw the figure beside her, the one who had acted as her shield, rushing into the fray, pulling the other man into a fierce struggle that made the world around them spin, but this was just a fight. It was a spectacle, onlookers murmured and gasped, the mood shifting with every punch, every shove. Eleanor could hardly breathe, watching as the two men collided like freight trains in the night, bearing the weight of fate on their shoulders. "Help!" The word escaped from a stranger's lips, startling Eleanor and snapping her back to the moment. She had to reach Lily. But then, another realization crashed into her: if she didn't stop the chaos, they both could be swept away forever. "Lily, hold on!" she hollered, her voice hoarse. She took a step forward, then another, determination igniting within her. The sound of skin on skin echoed around her as the figure struggled to keep the grappling man at bay. Each punch thrown felt like a nail tightening into Eleanor's heart. She couldn't wait any longer, she couldn't let her daughter see this. "Breathe, Eleanor," she whispered to herself, her hands trembling at her sides. "You're stronger than this, you have to be." Suddenly, the man broke free and lunged toward Lily, who was still immobilized, clutching onto a nearby lamppost, uncertainty painted across her little face. Eleanor bolted forward, pure instinct guiding her. "Get away from her." The words flew from her lips like bullets, ripping through fear and chaos. A flash of movement stole her focus. Just then, the figure turned, his body intercepting the oncoming charge. Eleanor saw the fury in his muscles, the desperate savagery bubbling just beneath the surface. It made her heart twist. "Run!" he shouted, eyes locking on hers as he shielded Lily from the approaching danger. Eleanor's heart raced, feeling tethered to this one moment where everything hung in balance. With a swift motion, she reached Lily, wrapping her arms around her tight. "I've got you!" she gasped, holding her daughter protectively. But the fear still lingered, menacing and unwavering. She turned, finally seeing the unfolding fight, a grim dance of survival. The figure, determined and relentless, was engaged in a battle for both their lives. A swing of a fist, and their world tipped further into darkness. Screams filled the air as nearby onlookers shrank back, unsure how to respond. The police sirens ended their complacency, and just like that, the crowd thinned, anxiety sparking heightened tensions. "Stay close to me," Eleanor urged Lily, clutching her hand tightly as she fought to find a direction in the disarray. In one singular moment, the chaos reached a fever pitch. The figure stumbled, and time slowed as Eleanor realized he was vulnerable. Fear gripped her with ice-cold fingers. Would they make it out of here? Would this fight leave them broken? Just as the grappling man turned toward them, a flash of blue and red transformed the scene. The arrival of the police seemed almost surreal, cutting through the violence like a scalpel. "Get on the ground!" a voice blared. "Now!" Eleanor's breath hitched. Would the police even know who to trust in this maelstrom? Or did they simply bring a new layer of danger to an already precarious situation? The sirens echoed louder, and in that moment, as uncertainty gripped her heart tighter, Eleanor realized the stakes had risen beyond what she could fathom. The night was still young, and the real battle for survival was far from over. Would this storm of chaos expose hidden truths, or was it about to devour everything she loved? The question loomed heavy as she faced the reality slowly encroaching around them. Time was ticking, and someone had to pay the price before dawn broke. The chaos drew tighter, swirling around Eleanor and Lily like a dark cloud threatening to burst. The police were here, but their authority felt distant, shadowed by confusion and fear. She had Lily, but the sound of sirens and shouting intensified every heartbeat, cracking the fragile sense of safety she fought to maintain. "Stay behind me," Eleanor insisted, her voice a sharp whisper, not taking her eyes off the figure wrestling the man in a frenzy of fists. The police were shouting again, but their commands seemed to dissolve in the mayhem, blending with the cries of the crowd. "We have to go," she told Lily, feeling the little girl's grip tighten against her. A sudden punch landed, echoing through Eleanor's chest as the figure staggered. "No!" she gasped, fighting the instinct to rush forward. In that split second, everything shifted. The grappling man seized the advantage, launching forward like a missile toward her protector. "Move!" he barked, barely avoiding the wild swing aimed at him. Eleanor's heart dropped, and she felt the heat rising in her throat. Lily's eyes were round and filled with dread. "Mommy, I'm scared." "I know, sweetheart. I know," Eleanor said, desperation creeping into her voice. "Just hold on tight." But the moment cascaded faster than she could grasp. The figure staggered again. As he reeled back, Eleanor's heart pounded with each breath. The others in the crowd remained transfixed, paralyzed by the violence, as if they didn't know whether to flee or stand by for a rescue. "Get down!" shouted a police officer again, just as Eleanor felt a shove against her back, the grappling man seizing the chance to break free. Eleanor's instincts kicked in. Grabbing Lily's hand, she pulled her close and ducked into an alley just off the street. Whispers of panic wrapped around her like ropes, and she could feel sweat trickle down her spine. "We have to find somewhere safer." Her mind raced as they stumbled down the narrow space, the distant clash of voices fading slowly. For a moment, the shadows seemed to cloak them in safety. She crouched down, forcing herself to focus on Lily. The girl's face was pale, her heart racing just as fast as Eleanor's. "Why did you do that?" Lily's voice trembled, questioning yet innocent. The question hit Eleanor hard. Was it foolishness? Did she put them both at risk, trying to be a hero? She took a breath, searching for words. "To protect you, honey. You are everything to me." But was that enough? Suddenly, the ruckus erupted outside. She could hear shouts and commotion, the distinct sound of heavy boots hitting the pavement as police officers closed in. Panic flared in Eleanor's chest again. They could be perfectly safe or trapped. "Mommy! What if they're looking for us?" Lily's voice shook, clutching at Eleanor's shirt. "I won't let anything happen to you," she assured, but uncertainty gnawed at her. "We just need to wait it out." A figure raced past their hiding spot. Eleanor peered out into the chaos and felt her heart sink. It was him, the man who had fought off Lily's attacker. He was in full retreat, glancing over his shoulder as if he could sense their fear. A bruised face, fierce and wild, his eyes like storm clouds. There was something almost primal about the way he moved. "Go," he grunted, almost as if he spoke to the shadows, not noticing Eleanor as he fled the chaos. "Mommy, we should help," Lily urged, but Eleanor gripped her tighter. It was too much. Help who? Would it cost them their lives? That man could get hurt. Lily cried, the impulse to help instilled in her. Desperation clawed at Eleanor. "We don't have time for that. We need to find a safe place," she insisted, feeling like she was suffocating under the weight of choices, but then, from down the alley, the sound of footsteps approached. Police officers. Their flashlights illuminated the dark corners, hunting like wolves in the night. Eleanor bit her lip, her mind racing. What would she do next? Would they be captured or forced to stay hidden in this darkened alley? "Mommy, they're coming," Lily whimpered. The footsteps grew louder, and dread clawed at Eleanor's throat. How to choose between fear and duty? Could she trust the police to protect them? Or would they see two women in the midst of chaos and treat them as threats? Her heartbeat escalated, and as the flashlights flickered closer, Eleanor realized the choice was made for her. Hit the ground. She breathed, pulling Lily low. The decision crystallized in icy clarity, a desperate gamble to survive the night. What awaited them in the shadows? Would they become entangled in a nightmare or find a way out? Time was slipping away, and the stakes had never been higher. The tension felt electric, jolting through Eleanor as she crumpled to the ground, pulling Lily down with her. Instinct screamed at her to hide, to vanish into the darkness and wait for the storm to pass. The footsteps echoed closer, each one a drumbeat of dread that matched the racing of her heart. The alley was shrouded in shadows, the sharp edges of brick and metal cutting against the dim light. She dared a glance at the figures marching with authority. Police officers moved with purpose, their flashlights dancing like fireflies in the night, seeking out signs of life. "Stay quiet, okay?" she whispered while feeling Lily gnawed against her. The little girl's body trembled but she stayed still. It broke Eleanor's heart to see her so afraid, but what choice did they have? Then, just moments away, the beam of light pierced directly into their hiding spot. Eleanor could feel her breath hitch, the chill of panic pinching at her lungs. The officer's shadow loomed larger as he approached, the air thickening with dread. She held her breath, praying they wouldn't draw attention. "What is going on back here?" the officer bellowed, scanning the alley with a keen eye. Eleanor feigned calmness, but her thoughts raced like wild horses. Should I leap out and claim our innocence? Would they listen? Or would they mistake her for an errant shadow? In that moment, a muffled shout erupted from the street. Another skirmish, another wave of chaos. "Over there!" another officer called, firing up the sirens, only it drew the attention of the officer nearby. His beam veered away from them. "This side is clear," he confirmed to his partner, and as they turned to leave, Eleanor felt relief wash over her like a tide until another scream shattered that moment. Lily sat up suddenly, eyes wide, desperate to know what was happening. "Mommy! What is going on?" she whispered, wide-eyed, barely containing the urge to bolt towards the source of the noise. "Shoo, sweetie," Eleanor soothed, but her voice felt frail against the rising panic. The world outside was spinning into madness. She wished she could shield her child from all of this, but there was no covering the reality of their situation. As if summoned by the chaos, the man from earlier reappeared at the alley's mouth. Eleanor struggled to process the sudden sight, the wild eyes, the frantic energy as he darted back into the shadows. He did not run past them this time. "Go. Get somewhere safe," he shouted, his voice hoarse, raw with urgency. Before she could react, before she could protect Lily from seeing more, he turned sharply and vanished deeper into the darkness, leaving behind a mix of desperation and fierce determination. "Mommy, we have to help him," Lily cried, her small voice piercing through Eleanor's haze. "He saved you. We need to save him." Frustration slammed into Eleanor. Was this girl of 8 truly aware of the risks? Tap-drumming thoughts spiraled through her mind, every cell in her body fought to keep them hidden, yet all Lily saw was a person in need. "Sweetheart, listen," Eleanor said, urgency knitting her brow. "The police will handle this. We can't go out there." But the tremor in her voice betrayed the uncertainty gnawing at her resolve. Every instinct warned her against taking another step into danger, and every motherly instinct tugged her towards the fleeting shadows of the man who might need their help. The sirens wailed again, sharp and unforgiving, growing closer. The scene outside was spiraling out of control, and while she understood the realities of the world they faced, an ache began to bloom in her chest. What kind of mother would she be if she turned her back on someone seeking refuge? "Breathe," Eleanor thought. "You have to choose." The creeping shadows threatened to swallow them whole, and suddenly, she felt her hand warming against Lily's, a thread of strength sundered between them. "Okay," she finally said, voice low yet fervent, "we'll help him. But we have to be quick and very quiet." The instant she spoke, a flash of relief lit in Lily's eyes, but Eleanor's heart sank even deeper. Hope intertwined with the fear of their decision. As they crept out of the safety of their hiding spot, the cool air hit Eleanor's cheeks, and she felt the weight of their choice hang heavy upon them. Will they become saviors or simply become lost in the chaos as well? With every step outside, the reality of their peril edged closer, but driven by an unyielding maternal instinct, she plunged into the turmoil. The sirens wailed louder, drowning her heart as they took their destiny into their own hands. What awaited them in that labyrinth of mayhem? Would they become entangled in a darker night than they knew? Or would salvation arise in the midst of chaos? As they stepped into the fray, Eleanor could only wonder about the price of their decision. The chaos roared all around them, as Eleanor and Lily moved through the fray with a new sense of purpose. Eleanor felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins, propelling them forward as she stayed low, heart racing. She couldn't allow fear to choke her now they were here to help. "Mommy, I see him!" Lily exclaimed, her eyes brightening, pointing toward the figure struggling against the grappling man in the chaotic swirl of bodies. Instinctively, Eleanor's body moved faster. She spotted the flash of bruised skin on the figure's cheek and the fervent determination in his eyes. He was still fighting a beacon of strength amidst the dark. "I'll distract him, you find a way to reach him," she instructed softly, glancing down at Lily, who nodded vigorously, her small face set with determination. In a heartbeat, Eleanor sprang forward, shouting over the din, "Hey! Over here!" She diverted the grappling man's focus, aware the chaos curled around them like a whirlwind of shadows. The grappling man turned, surprise momentarily flickering across his features. Perhaps he was still mentally calculating who he could keep under his control. "Look at the coward!" Eleanor shouted again, voice raw. "You're afraid of a girl and her mother?" The man snarled and charged toward her, the predator on the hunt. "Now, Lily!" Eleanor yelled, her heart racing as she dove aside. Lily sprang into action, dashing toward the figure, who had finally managed to regain his footing. Their eyes met briefly as recognition flared in those stormy depths, and Eleanor felt a rush of pride. Together, in this moment of chaos, they were a team. Suddenly, a sharp cracking noise echoed through the air, another panic-driven shout, and Eleanor risked a glance behind her to see the grappling man collapsing to the ground, the police finally intervening with commanding voices melding into the tumult. With a firm grip, Eleanor kept her focus on Lily and the figure, who now stood side by side, ready to face the unknown. Sweeping through the remnants of chaos, Eleanor joined them, breathing a sigh of relief as they formed a united front. "Let us go," she urged, heart thumping in her chest. They turned to make their escape, but the shadows hadn't retreated yet. Without warning, the grappling man stood again, rage flashing, eyes fixated on the trio. "You'll pay for this!" he roared, but the sound was drowned out by the oncoming sirens and the shouts of officers as they surged forward, finally resolute in their purpose. "Help is here!" the figure bellowed, and as if on cue, several officers closed in, tackling the grappling man with the precision of a well-practiced team. Lily's eyes widened, her little hand still clutching Eleanor's with a fierce strength. The madness slowed time stilled for just long enough for them to grasp what had happened. "Is it over?" Lily asked, wide-eyed and trembling. Eleanor knelt, pulling her daughter close, enveloping her in warmth. "For now, yes," she breathed, relief pouring over her. The chaos of the night faded like a nightmare receding at dawn. They were still alive. As the police began to take control of the situation, Eleanor stepped back, her heart swelling with gratitude toward the figure, who had fought so fiercely for them, his breath heavy but his resolve unwavering. "Thank you," she whispered, feeling a bond form through their shared ordeal. He nodded, eyes glazing with something deeper than the mere adrenaline of the fight. "You showed courage. That matters more than you know," he said quietly, addressing both women. A fierce protector transformed into an ally. Eleanor felt the weight of their circumstances slowly lifting, as if the night had finally begun to let them breathe. In the distance, the sirens softened into a wailing lullaby, and as they stepped away from the chaos, Eleanor felt the first real hope twinkling on the horizon of their story together. "Let us go home," she said, glancing down at Lily, who looked calm, a spark of innocence igniting within her brave little heart. The figure smiled, a rare softness breaking through the fierceness that had defined their interactions. "You take care of her. She needs you," he said, a nod of respect exchanged between them. Eleanor nodded back, stronger than she felt, knowing this night would leave its mark on them all. Hand in hand, Eleanor and Lily walked away from the remnants of the night, two hearts intertwined, not just by blood, but by choice, forged in the flames of uncertainty. Lily's laughter echoed softly, and for the first time since the ordeal began, Eleanor felt the fragile threads of hope weaving their way back into her life. As dawn began to break, spilling light over the chaos of the night, Eleanor took a deep breath, filled with relief. "Let us start fresh," she whispered to her daughter. "Together. Together." Knowing in her soul that whatever darkness lay ahead, they would face it side by side. Now more than ever, Eleanor understood the power of choice. And as they walked toward the light, the remnant of that dark night faded into a mere whisper. If you need to hear more incredible stories like this, you must subscribe immediately to the channel. Don't let that red button just hang there, smash it now. Every click feeds the algorithm beast, so show your support. Flood the comments with your reactions. What did you think of this conclusion? Your opinions matter. And for the love of all things miraculous, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this journey. This is your moment. Don't wait even one more second.